Why did Stinky sleep in a closet while you had your own room? So I got the solo room because I think I was the only person in a relationship at the time. So people were like, oh yeah, you know, if you want to like go on a call with your girlfriend or something, you can have some privacy. And no one really cared. It was offered to me. And then Sneaky ended up moving into the closet. Hey guys, welcome back to the Cloud9 Kia Forecast, episode 22. I'm Meteos, and today we have a special episode. We asked you guys for questions you had for me, and I'm going to answer them. The league team's on break this week, so it's just going to be me today. And as a reminder, Portuguese, Brazilian subtitles are available. Okay, first question is from @ChrisR6732. And the question is, tips on climbing as a jungler. I would say it depends a little bit on what elo you're in, but for the most part, just make sure to farm enough. I think one of the traps you'll fall into is trying to make everyone happy, because in solo queue, you're not always going to have the best teammates, and you can't make them all happy all the time. So I think it's best to just focus on, you know, a couple champs you really like, learn how they play, learn the good builds and stuff, and then just clear your camps a lot, get strong, and try to carry that way. The next question is from James Kiefer 9339. It says, Media's been watching since 2013. Was just curious what you think is the hardest part of being a pro. Is it the social aspect of handling other personalities of the team, the demand of the schedule of scrims and practice, or do you have something that really was something you struggled with as an individual, battling your own personality and your strengths and weaknesses, or something else? Good question. I think there's a lot. Probably the most difficult thing, I would say, for most players is just the amount of time required to do it, because I think that there's a lot of distractions that can come up when you're a pro player, right? Like, if you were a robot, it wouldn't be a problem, but because you're human, there's like, you know, relationships, sometimes other games will come out, you'll have friends that want to hang out, and to be a successful pro player, you really have to like be able to put that all aside and just really commit to only playing the game and practicing all the time, because if you don't, then the people who do will pass you up, and, you know, their career is fleeting in a sense, right? It's like, if you have a bad split, maybe you don't get signed the next one, and then maybe you never get to play again. So I would say that the pressure from just having to always stay on top of your game is pretty challenging. And then there are obviously team things as well. I think that managing personalities can be pretty hard, but teams are generally pretty professional with it, and there's like coaches and staff on the team. So it's not like, you know, the player's responsibility per se, but yeah, you know, you want to try to be a good teammate and just put all your time into it, and yeah, should be chilling. Back in the early days of League, before we had like, you know, so much structure, I would say Cloud9 didn't have a whole lot of problems because, you know, we were all good friends. But, you know, we would have the occasional argument. Sometimes it could get heated. But I think usually what we did to solve it was just have everybody get involved, right? Like, if one player and another player, like let's say me and Hai were arguing about something, it wouldn't just be a 1v1 where like one of us is like, you know, going to have hurt feelings at the end. Usually we try to get everyone involved, be like, okay, you know, what's someone else's perspective on the situation who's not directly involved? Because it's always gameplay stuff, right? It's like, okay, well, I think that it's best for the game if we do this. And so you get more opinions in it, so it's not just like a 1v1 between players. And I think that's a good way to resolve it. Next question is from DaxDax6035. It says, hey, Media's huge fan since 2013 qualifiers. If you could bring back one champion/item, what would it be? That's a good one. I was actually talking about this the other day, and I think one of the reworks that I kind of missed was the old LeBlanc one. Granted, I didn't play her a ton, but I thought that version of LeBlanc where you would like hit the minions with your W or any ability, and then it puts that little circle that charges up, and then queuing them or hitting any other ability would like trigger it, and you have really satisfying wave clear where it like bounced everything. I thought that was super cool, and I was a little sad when they went back on that. And for item, I honestly find myself missing a lot of the mythic items. I thought Prowler's Claw was sweet on Rek'Sai, but like it was pretty broken, so I get why they got rid of it, but it was fun. And I think Gore Drinker as well is one that I kind of feel like is missed because it led to some really cool moments, but you know, obviously they're strong, so I guess it's okay if they're not here. Next question is from Registered Mug Maniac. and they asked, now that we are in Fearless, what are some off-meta champions you would like to see played? Off-meta that I would like to see played? Well, we've seen a lot of stuff so far. So I'm trying to think if there's any champions that haven't been played that I think could be played. I think Elise Jungle could definitely get played if you need an AP jungler. Every time we've seen Elise lately, it's been support. So I would like to see it come back in the jungle. Obviously, I'm a fan of Rek'Sai and Zac. I guess all the champs I like playing aren't really meta, but I also don't think they're that good. So you'd have to get like Game 7 of Fearless maybe to see them. For other roles, I think Lissandra mid might be pretty good, or Vex. Just champions with like super high burst and heavy CC, because one change that happened in the meta not too long ago was like the removal of Legend Tenacity and Unflinching. So I think it's actually a lot harder to get Tenacity. Also, like Merc Treads are nerfed. So I think there's a lot of value in champions with, super hard CC and burst abilities. So maybe something like that could be cool. Next question is from the Weekd 7388. And it says, a question you wish someone would ask you in an interview and what is genuinely important to you. First thing comes to mind, no context. It was this question. I wanted someone to ask me this. I don't know. I never thought about it. Usually I just answer what they ask me. I've never had any topics that I'm dying to talk about. But what's genuinely important to me, first thing comes to mind, just, I don't know, having a good time, getting through life. My dog's really important to me. I hang out with her a lot. I don't know. I don't have anything too much deeper than that. Next question is from Talon Coghill 143, and it asks, what is your favorite rune of all time? 1% crit from OG runes or more modern like Predator boots? Okay, 1% crit was cringe. I never ran that. I know Sneaky really liked it. Just looking back, that's such a crazy thing to have in the game. Like, you just get crit in a trade and die, or like lose way too much HP from one auto. I don't miss that at all. What rune do I really miss? Predator was kind of interesting, but I never really ran it. I feel like runes are all kind of whatever. Like, I think the current iteration of runes, maybe Strength of the Ages, actually, now that I think about it, because I always thought that the best way for a jungler, like if I was a rat designer and I was going to decide how jungle works, I think it's really good to, you want to incentivize junglers to clear camps and whatnot, which I think Strength of the Ages did a good job of. It made it so you weren't too bursty, you weren't running like an electrocute or something in the jungle. You didn't have a damage keystone, and it made it so you really wanted to clear all your camps to get like the 300 max HP thing and the ability to heal off camps. So I thought that was like pretty good gameplay. This was back in season 6 or something at this point, but it kind of started devolving when people started using on like Graves and Kindred in Italy, who cleared too fast. So I think people probably have like a bad taste in their mouth from that rune. But outside of those outlier, like the really OP clear junglers, I thought it was actually really cool and made for like a nice style of jungling. For people who are just starting League, I think runes are pretty important. Definitely. If you have the wrong runes, it can hurt your matchup. Though I will say that nowadays, since the rune reworks, I think Riot definitely has this like unspoken rule with the way that they design the runes where they never want it so you have too useless of runes. Back in the day, if you played like Caitlyn and you load in with an AP rune page, it was just completely lost immediately. There was no adaptive stats. You would literally have like magic pin and ability power, and you would do no damage early and no damage late. It was actually just a free loss if you got the wrong runes. So I think that's why they've done a lot of this like adaptive force stuff and like one size fits all with runes. So it does help it so that you never have too bad of runes, but I kind of miss some of the old stuff in like each class could be a little bit more specific, right? It's like mages could have access to certain tools that you couldn't also get on fighters and whatnot. Now it's kind of like anyone can run anything. But yeah, definitely I would say having the right runes is good. The keystone, and then a lot of times if you're playing melee, you really want the resolve tree. Second wind is just such a strong rune for early game, and a lot of matchups can go horrible if you don't have it. Was there ever a player on another team that you wanted to play with someone who was either in North American scene with you or you'd spoken with and respected or admired their gameplay. I would say there were times where I thought it'd be cool to play with like Bjergsen or Doublelift because, you know, they were always very good players and we played at the same time. You know, they were always hard to go up against and I respected their gameplay and work ethic and whatnot. So I think it could have been cool to play with them. But at the same time, you know, like I think them and myself kind of have like strong opinions of how to play the game. So maybe we would have clashed or something like that. So hard to say. But yeah, that could have been cool. Next question is from Dark Snows 1. It says, hi, Meteos, been a fan ever since the OG Cloud9 days in summer 2013. Loved when you Sneaky played at IEM Standards Day 2014, and I love when I met you guys at the autographs. My question is, if you had to go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self and why? Ooh, that's a good one. What would I give my younger self? Probably just to try to not feel so pressured, because there's a lot of pressure and stress that comes with being a pro player where, you know, like a bad day of solo queue or a bad day of scrims can like weigh really heavy on you. You start questioning, are you good or whatnot? And looking back, you know, I played for a long time and I'm still in the scene now. So I think maybe just to chill out more. Things are going to work out. Yeah. Next question is from Stone Trooper 6969. It's a good name. It says, what does Zach need to be back at the top? I really miss seeing Zach in competitive. I would also love to see Zach back in competitive. I would say his biggest weakness is his early game. He's super, super weak early to the point where he just kind of gets bullied by everybody. And I'm not exactly sure what they would need to fix it. I think something that I would like for Zach is if they changed how you max his abilities to make it so you level W first and then Q and make E kind of like a 1-point wonder. Because right now, the range and the cooldown of E gets significantly lower as you put points into it. Meaning you have to max E first, but like you're only getting one off in a fight anyway. So like your dueling's really weak. It's hard to invade his Zac too because his cooldowns are so long that like say you jump in on the enemy's Raptors, but then their jungler's there, like you're just guaranteed dying. There's nothing you can do. So that is actually a huge downside of him. It makes it so it limits where you can go a lot, as opposed to if you're playing something like Viego, you can kind of just walk up to his camp, take it, still fight him if he shows up. You can get away with your E very easily, as an example. So I think if they made it so you can max his W first, kind of like he does in lane, that would make him a lot stronger for dueling and whatnot. And then they could just add like level scaling to the range or cooldown on his E. They've done that with some other champions. So I think that would be cooler. So, you know, laners are not getting terrorized as hard by long range Zac jumps early game, and Zac can fight a little bit better because I think that's just something you need to be able to do as a jungler. Next question is from @JPLX99. It says, does Meteos have a favorite scrim moment back from season 3-4 with the OG goated roster? There are a lot of really good scrim moments. Just off the top of my head, I remember one day where we were kind of doing some drinking scrims. This was like really early on because we were up against like a tier 2 team, and these days were different. It's like we didn't take it too seriously, and we were also kind of stomping them. So we just decided to start drinking, and it was funny because at the time, this was like when Moscow 5 was still a team, or maybe they were Gambit, and Genja was doing this like triple Doran Blade build every game, and Sneaky hated it. Every time he saw their games, he was like, this guy is trolling. He's so bad. And then because we were all like, you know, a little tipsy and loose, he tried it out in these scrims, and he's like, wait, this is actually good. So I thought that was fun. You know, we're just like able to have fun in the scrims because, you know, sometimes it gets too serious. So I thought that was a really fun day. And we always made fun of Sneaky. We're like, you know, oh, I thought that build was really bad, but now you're playing it. Another one that probably comes to mind is when we scrimmed against RNG, because this was, I don't remember if it was 2013 or 14, but we scrimmed against RNG. This was like with Uzi and Tabby a lot. And we actually did pretty well against them. Like our games were always really competitive. And I think a lot of the time it ended up with like me getting really fed on jungle against Uzi being really fed on 80 carries. And it would turn into like, you know, an Elise versus Caitlyn, like who could one shot the other one. And like, I thought those games were super cool. And then that was the Worlds. It must have been 2014 where like Tabby did an interview after one of their wins, and he just like randomly gave me a shout out saying like, Meteos is the best jungler I've played against. And I was just like, whoa, that's Unexpected. Thanks, dude. So that was a cool moment. Next question is from Brooklyn IT14. It says, your dog is named Ari. My cat is named Irelia. What are the best league champs to name your pet after? Oh, this is a good one because I wish I knew now that it shouldn't be a popular champion because I feel like my dog is actually less responsive to me because when I'm watching her playing League, I say the name Ari pretty frequently, right? And so it's probably not good for the dog that I'm saying her name, but then I'm not looking at her or giving her any attention or anything. So she starts getting confused. Like, is that even my name? So I think if you're going to do a League champion, maybe do a less popular one, maybe something a little bit more obscure that you're not going to say all the time so your dog doesn't get confused. An example has to be something off meta, maybe like Belveth. Come here, Belveth. Next question is from Alec Kranick. He says, if he never took that first step of downloading League of Legends all those years ago, where would he be in life right now? Who knows, man? I was going to school for computer science when I got into League. Well, sort of. I didn't finish because League kind of got in the way, but I really don't know, honestly. I'm pretty blessed to have ended up where I am, and I think, yeah, maybe I would have just been doing some job I didn't like and still playing video games all my spare time anyway. At SilXM, it says, if 2013 C9 went against a random team of modern solo queue players with comms, what is the lowest rank you think could realistically beat you guys? In other words, how much has the skill level of average player increased relative to the pros of the past? This is an interesting question. I've heard it talked about a lot because I think you would have to play on the season 13 version of League. And it's so different from nowadays that I don't know. I don't think it would be that bad. I think we'd still probably beat challenger players because the game was so different back then that a lot of the skills that's super relevant nowadays might have not been as relevant back then, and people nowadays won't know the stuff that was good before. But as far as just individual mechanics and how people control their characters, it'd probably still be like Diamond Master level. It wouldn't be top tier, obviously, because people have improved over time. But I think just the changes in the game would make it so that if modern day solo queue players went back, they would really struggle if they've never seen that before. At Saint Pepsi 2814 said, what trajectory do you think LoL esports would have taken had Riot not consolidated pro play and allowed grassroots events to flourish? It's really hard to say. I mean, I'd like to believe that the scene could be bigger. But I don't know. I think LCS did a lot of things right. I think they really elevated pro esports. And kind of when you look at other games nowadays, back before, Riot started doing LCS, there weren't really leagues for other stuff. Like, it was the first of its kind. So I think they set the stage, and a lot of other games have kind of copied them in a sense. So I don't know. I think Riot kind of did what they did for a reason, but it would be cool if there were more open community events, because one thing that I've really missed with League is just the ability to play against top teams if you're just a group of friends. Because one of my earliest memories when I was competing was before Cloud9, I was on this team called Team Normal Stars, which was just me and my friends. We were high elo normal game players because we didn't like playing ranked. And we competed in these weekly Go for LOL tournaments, which were just anybody could sign up. And we won one of those one week. It would be 64 teams. We won. And this was season 2. And Moscow 5, which was probably the second best team in the world, was here for the World Championship. And they just posted in this public scrim chat saying, hey, is anybody free to play right now? We just want to practice against anyone. And I kind of jokingly wrote in there, I was like, hey, my team can play you guys. We just, we're the Go for LOL champions. And I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, not expecting. And they're like, okay, we'll play. And we played 2 games against them. We actually beat them one time. So that was such an insane moment, going from people that only play normal games together to beating one of the literal best teams in the world. So obviously that was just a scrim, but I think that idea of having access to the higher teams, and obviously you wouldn't play against them most of the time. You'd have to earn your way up. But I think having that open qualifier nature is really cool. And maybe we would have got more of that. Next question is from Evan K5966, it says, hey, Meteos, who's the worst current champion in League of Legends? Ooh, this is a tough one because every time I give an answer, somebody who likes that champion will get offended. But I generally say it's those champions that are like mages with no mobility, like Xerath and Vel'Koz come to mind. I think they are, they just don't have a lot of potential to do well. And granted, like just this morning, Nemesis had like a really insane Xerath game and he has showed up in pro play. So I don't think the worst champion is unviable, but I just look at the potential of what this champion can do. It's like the factors that I look at are how good are they early? How like safe are they? Can they take over a game if they get fed? Are they likely to get fed? All this stuff. And when I look at Xerath and Vel'Koz, it's like you're completely immobile and squishy. So no matter how strong you get, you're still going to get run over by pretty much anything. Also, like all your abilities are flashable or you could Zonya's it. And your damage is never guaranteed. So for that, I take a lot of points off them. But I think you could also make an argument that like some weak Snowblade champs like Katarina or Shyvana aren't very good because if you put them up against stronger champions in like a pro play setting, they're just going to get run through. But, you know, obviously in solo queue, those champs can do well. So tough question. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say Vel'Koz. If you could pick your all-time C9 roster, what would it be? If I could pick my all-time C9 roster, I would go with OG. Balls, Meteos, High, Sneaky Lemon. Yeah. That's how it all started. And, yeah, you know, hard to beat it. There's a question from JCF8. He said, why did Sneaky sleep in a closet while you had your own room? That's a good question because it is really funny looking back. But basically, the reason this happened was because originally it was like there was a one bed room. Like the room I was in was pretty small, so it would have been hard to fit a second bed in there. Then there was a second bedroom, which was bigger, that High and Balls were in. And then there was the upstairs loft area where it was like pretty spacious, right? So that's where Sneaky and Lemon were. And then eventually we had Alex Penn move in with us, who was like our coach analyst at the time. So they ended up having 3 people upstairs. So I got the solo room because I think I was the only person in a relationship at the time. So people were like, oh yeah, you know, if you want to like go on a call with your girlfriend or something, you can have some privacy. And no one really cared. It was offered to me. So that's why I was there. And then Sneaky ended up moving into the closet because he got in a relationship and he wanted a little bit more privacy. But I don't know why he chose the closet, because it was a closet connected to the bathroom, which is just horrible. Anytime someone like had to go to the bathroom late at night, he was getting fumigated a little bit. So that was his choice. Nobody forced him into that. I wouldn't do it personally, but yeah, that's why I did it. At Luke Maggio says, biggest career achievement and regret? Probably just winning LCS. Like I think that whole first year was pretty magical when you think about it, because it felt so surreal. It was one of those things where it was like I was waiting to wake up from a dream the whole time. I went from being someone just kind of like coasting through college, playing League in my spare time, watching these pro players. I always remember having this really vivid memory where I was sitting there like watching a Hotshot GG stream thinking like, wow, it's so cool this guy can play League professionally as a job. Like that's just the dream. This guy won at life, you know. I'm so jealous of that. And then a year later, I was somehow doing the same thing. And, you know, we won the qualifier. We ended up becoming like the best team in our region. We went to like PAX West. We had like thousands of people cheering for us. And we won the whole thing. And it's just crazy going from being like a literal nobody to being thrown into the spotlight, having tons of fans, people asking us to sign stuff. So that whole thing was just like a super awesome experience. And yeah, I mean, I'm never going to forget that. As far as regrets, I'm not sure what I would say my biggest regret is. I think maybe it would just be sometimes I think I would get really competitive and prioritize like our team getting better more than people's feelings. And I would be like blunt or like too direct with like criticism or feedback from my teammates. And I think sometimes that could like, you know, make them feel bad. So I think I regret doing that sometimes. And it's something that I learned as I got older. Next question is from Zaddy C Bot. says, why do you not see more jungle just picking champs like Zach, Olaf, or Nunu picked when the angle is clearly super advantageous? Well, I think usually it's just because there's better options. And as far as these champs go, Zach and Nunu are both AP junglers and they're pretty weak early game. So I think it's hard to pick them. Also, when it comes to drafting, a lot of the time you're going to pick your jungler early because there's so much value in counterpicking lanes. If you have a bad lane matchup, you're just going to be behind from the get-go. Lane swapping's been, kind of addressed, so it's harder to get by. And you don't really want to just go into a game with like a weak thing. So you'll oftentimes pick a strong early jungler, and, Zach and Nunu are definitely not strong. And then Olaf, I think he actually could work. We saw him in LTA once, the split. I think Shaden played him, and it was pretty good. But he is very snowbally. You need to have a very good game on Olaf. And if it ever goes wrong, you can kind of just end up being extremely useless. So I think it's mostly just that there's better options, safer stuff. Champs like Xin Zhao, Pantheon, Nefiri are kind of just, really good early and provide utility even if they're not snowballing. Sean Colwell 5754 said, what is your best champ and favorite champ to play? I would probably say Rek'Sai for both of those. I've played a lot of Rek'Sai. I think she's super fun. However, lately I've not been playing that much Rek'Sai because she's kind of weak. My most recent favorite champ is Set. I think that new Overlord Bloodmail item is insane on him. You just go Stride Breaker, boots, then that thing, and you can literally just one-shot entire teams with your W with full grit. That's super satisfying. Next question is from Silly Kyle 17. Says, why does no one play Thresh in pro play? I would say Thresh is just kind of outclassed by other champions, which is crazy because when he first came out, he was just so ahead of his time and, super, super strong. But I think it's just gotten to the point where he's not that easy to actually make stuff happen. I think his hook is really, really slow and predictable. And if he had the base stats to be able to just walk up and stat check people with Flay, he would be really strong. But he's kind of balanced around not being able to do that because it would be too oppressive. I think the last time that we saw him played, he was kind of just getting played as a Lantern bot, which was really lame. You'd pick him with Aphelios or Varus or something, and you would just max W and sit in the back and just Lantern people to safety all the time. And I got really tilted when I would play against that because it's no one would ever be overextended. You couldn't make picks on people, and it just made the game really boring. It was actually turning this cool playmaking hook champ into basically a do-nothing enchanter. So I think that's probably a reason they didn't like the Lantern gameplay of him. So I don't know. I would love to see Thresh back in pro play. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think if it was up to me, they could do something like adding back in his ability to flash during his hook animation. He used to have that. And it's really strong, but, it's going to incentivize aggressive plays, which is always good. And I would nerf his Lantern in some way. Not really sure how to do it, but just having that get out of jail free card for any positional misstep is really lame and just makes games boring. Next question is from Lucky Pants 2113. It says, what job career do you think you would have ended up had you not gone pro? Do you ever consider role swapping at any point in your career? If so, what position? Is there any other video game you think could have gone pro in if you pursued that instead of League? Okay, good questions. So the first one, I think I would probably end up with some kind of computer science career. I'm not really sure. Maybe I could have gotten to game development. I think that would be cool for me. I've always loved that side of things, just learning, what makes games fun, how do you make a really fun game, all that stuff. So, yeah, hopefully something like that. Do I consider role swapping at any point in my career? I never seriously considered it when I was playing pro. Nowadays, if I could have gone back, I think support would be cool to play. Support nowadays feels more like jungle when I played it, where jungle nowadays is not so much vision oriented. It's a lot of farming. And, I don't think it's rewards creativity as much. I think nowadays support is being able to get up good vision, predict where people are going to go, show up at the right time. A lot of the information mind games is something that is super fun to me. So, I think playing support could be a lot of fun. I have fun with it nowadays. And the last question was, any video game you think you could have gone pro in? I think it would have to be something that I was really into. The only other one that comes to mind would be World of Warcraft, but there's not really a real pro scene in that. But I do play it a lot, and I've gotten to like super high ratings in their like Mythic Plus system. So yeah, maybe something like that. Next question is from WhatsUp43. It says, has there ever been a time where you felt powerless in game where you thought all hope was lost, but y'all still won the game? If so, which game? Yeah, I would say the first one that comes to mind was this game against, I don't remember what their team was called at the time. It was like Vulcan XDGG. It was a team with like Xmithy, Zuna, and those guys, where I was playing Nunu. This was pre-reworked Nunu, where he was just, you followed your ADK around spamming Blood Boil. And the game seemed so lost. They had like Shen TF. We were down 10k gold. I don't know how he won. It got to a point where me and Sneaky were just trolling in game. Like, we thought it was just completely lost. I was just following around saying, like, let me hold your hand when I was giving him Blood Boil. And it felt like we were just not even taking it seriously. And then somehow, like, they ended up throwing and we won. So that game always stands out to me, where afterwards we were just, like, in disbelief. Like, how did we win this game? Nilesberry says, what is your favorite memory from the international stage? I mean, there's been a lot of great memories from the international stage. I would say one of the ones that stands out for me a lot was, I think this was like 2014 when we were against one of those, I think it was like Samsung Blue, maybe White, one of like the best Korean teams. And we were like kind of losing. I think we were 1 or 2 games away from getting defeated. And I just remember having this memory in my head where I was playing Lee Sin and they had a Yasuo who was pushing down mid lane. And this was kind of like the early days of insecking on Lee Sin, where it wasn't like people weren't as good at ward jumping and like flash kicking and stuff. And so I just remember like, okay, you know, this guy's going to walk up mid and I'm just going to go for it. Like, I'm going to try to make like a sick play on him. Even if it doesn't work, like, I don't care. I just don't want to have any regrets. And so I went for it and we ended up like killing Yasuo and then almost winning the game. We like got onto their Nexus, but like weren't able to kill the Nexus. And then we ended up losing. But I just remember having that feeling of like, okay, you know, I just don't want to have any regrets. I'm just going to go for this big play, and it ended up working. And that was like a super cool experience for me. Next question is from Brian Pritzel, 5812. It says, what's Mew's favorite teammate he's ever had and why? I mean, that's the easy one. That's Sneaky. Me and him, it's just always vibed since day one. I feel like I've learned a lot about him, or, well, obviously about him, but just how to be a really good teammate. He's just a very stoic person. He's always very thoughtful to other people. He doesn't seem like, you know, a super nice, friendly guy, but he is in like a quiet way. You know, he always makes people feel good to be around him. Never really like makes anyone feel bad, and is very good at staying focused in the game and not tilting. So yeah, he's always been someone that I respect a ton and have learned from. So yeah, hands down. Next one's from Martin Felipe Pizarro. It says, how to get good at M plus and WoW, Mr. Meteos Cat? That's a WoW question. Getting good at Mythic Plus, you know, you just got to learn how to press your buttons and do a lot of damage. And then it has a similar skill set in League where just overall awareness, like there's a lot of things going on at once, and just practicing it a lot to the point where, like, you know, certain things become muscle memory. You don't have to think about everything going on. And then you can sort of like gradually learn to focus on different things. It's like, okay, make sure I'm doing my damage correctly. Then it's like, am I pressing my defensive buttons correctly? Am I doing my like interrupts and crowd control correctly? And eventually all that stuff comes together, and yeah, you improve. So I think there's a lot of similarities between League and playing M plus for WoW. So yeah, it's fun. Next question is from Tenechi3648. It says, how do you deal with constantly being proven wrong by Doublelift's insane game knowledge? That's a good one. Yeah, doing the co-stream with Doublelift is always a lot of fun because we just like banter with each other, but there's respect there. We're good friends. It's all just memes for sure. Julian Drago Martinez says, hey, Meteos, big fan. You inspired me to be an Elise main for about 10 years now. I was wondering, when C9 had his breakout in LCS, you guys dominated every single game and only dropped like 3 regular season games. How did coaches go over VODs and critique near perfect gameplay? Things are way different back then. I don't even know if we looked at our games that much. Even in practice, one thing that I really missed in the old days was that there was very little review between games. Nowadays, it is kind of a slog to scrim. It'll be like, if you have a 5-hour scrim blocks, you're playing 5 games. And even if those games are quick, it'll be like at least half your time is spent reviewing, which, you know, obviously there's value to it. There's things you need to learn and review. But back then it would be like you would have a 2-hour scrim block and you would guarantee play 3 games. You would just like play 1 game, go next, play, go next. And so in a sense, we did that with stage games. Like when we lost, I think we would like look at it or figure out what went wrong. But yeah, when we were winning, we just kind of kept it rolling. We also played a lot more games back then. It was like 28 game seasons instead of whatever it is now. It always changes, so who knows. But yeah, I would say just less VOD back then. We just grinded out games and went based on vibes. Next question is from Izzy Berman. It says, Mr. Meteos, want to thank you for your hard work and continued career, pro and cast. I've been a Zach player since season 6. Was wondering if you still play the trombone every once in a while. Absolutely not. I was never good at trombone. I have actually played the bassoon. So one thing that's always like a funny misconception is like there's that Trombonist Brothers video that like somehow surfaced in my early career. And I remember when that thing first came up, I was like pretty embarrassed of it because it was just like, dude, like how do people find this? And obviously it's a really cringe video. But I think the thing that might not be clear for everyone is that it was a parody video in itself. Like those exercises we did in the videos, they were like real marching band warm-up things that we did in marching band, but me and my friend Andrew were intentionally doing them bad because we were kind of like marching band clowns in a sense. Like, you know, we were kind of like the not serious guys. So it was just an inside joke between our friends. It's like, okay, yeah, like these two clown guys who are not very good are acting like the drum majors, like leading the exercises and doing it horribly. So, yeah, that was never meant to be a serious video, and it was embarrassing at first, but nowadays it's like, you know, whatever. I was 14 in the video, but yeah, I was never good at trombone. I was always bad, but the only reason I played it is because the instrument I played in concert band was the bassoon. Most people don't know what it is, but it's like this big woodwind instrument that has a double reed, and you can't march with it because the reed is too fragile, it'll break. In my high school, if you wanted to be in anything other than the lowest band, you had to do marching. And so basically like they just put me on trombone because, you know, had to pick something. But they didn't really care if I was horrible or not because they needed me in their like highest band playing the bassoon because it's a rare instrument and I was pretty good at it. So yeah, you know, I was just there. Can you confirm that Pedro Pascal is your father? And then another response says, you ever get tired of people calling you Pedro Pascal? No, I don't get tired of it. It's something that's only happened recently since I've like grown out a little bit of facial hair. But no, I don't personally see it, but I would never be offended. I love Pedro Pascal. He's one of my favorite actors. So, you know, if people think I look like him, like, great. Next question is from Tony Volincati. It says, Meteos, how long do you think Sneaky would have kept the Worlds run if he would have stayed on the team every year? You know, Sneaky's honestly a great player, and I don't think it can be overstated how much he elevated the rest of his team. Like every player, look at them playing with Sneaky and without him, and it's just night and day. Yeah, I always think it's a shame he didn't keep playing. Bernardo Santos says, Meteos, do you guys, former mates, still have contact with each other? Balls, you, high Sneaky elimination. We do. Me and Sneaky still talk to each other all the time. Most days, we raid with each other in WoW. We do the co-stream on the weekends. As far as Balls, I've actually seen him streaming recently, and I talked to him. He's getting back into League. I'm kind of getting back into League as well, so maybe we'll play there. And then High and Lemon, I see around periodically. High was with C9 for a while, and I would see him there. So yeah, we're all still on very good terms, but it's not like the talk every day kind of thing. Questions from Ninja Panda says, do you ever get so burnt out from the day that you don't even want to scrim that day? Oh, so burnt out from the game. I never had that playing pro. No, I don't think I would have wanted to keep playing if I didn't want to scrim. I took that super seriously. Like my entire career, I put so much weight in being good for scrims. It felt like every single decision I made, it would be like, I'm somebody who likes eating pizza and other bullshit, but it would be like I'd always eat a really healthy lunch before scrims. I would make sure like I woke up early, had my coffee, was just ready for the day. So I always wanted to be there. I always wanted to practice. I always gave it my 120%. So no, I never wanted to miss a day. Next question from Reishi says, Meteos is Anero bald? No, he's got a sick head of hair. Next question from Ruko says, what do you think your best top lane you've ever played with when you were in the LCS? I played with a lot of great top laners. Someone that's come to mind is like obviously Balls back in the day, Dokla someday. But if I had to pick the best one all time, I would say Impact. Both for his in-game and out-of-game traits. I think he was a very good player, super smart, gave a lot to the team. Lately, he's kind of been getting criticized because, you know, his laning hasn't been too hot this season, but he's the kind of guy who's like Sneaky in the way that he doesn't ask for a lot. He doesn't play for himself. He will always think about the team in its entirety. And he was also just a super funny guy. Like we were always making jokes. So yeah, I loved Impact. Next question is from Bloom Magier. Says, does he know who runs the C9 Meteos Ego Twitter account? I actually don't. I've DM'd them before. I had like an idea for a tweet to make and they made it. But no, that Twitter account was always doing their own thing. And I kind of decided early on, I was like, I don't really want to know who runs it. I think it's funnier if I don't, and I just pretend it's me. So maybe one day down the line, someone will come out and be like, hey, that was me. But no, I think it's more fun if I don't know. Okay, this or that. Faker or Chovy? Faker. ARAM or Brawl? ARAM. Type in chat or mute all? Mute all. Comfort pick or Metachamp? Comfort pick. Gank losing lane or Snowball winning one? Snowball winning lane. God teammate but bad vibes or decent teammate with good vibes? Decent teammate with good vibes. If you could choose voice chat or text chat? Text chat. Macro or mechanics? Mechanics. Next we have a look ahead with Cloud9 Kia. What's Meteos up to in general these days? These days, I'm, doing the dive. I'm doing the C9 podcast, doing co-streaming on the weekends. I also have a second Twitch account, which I do some WoW content on. That's kind of like scratching the competitive itch for me because as much as I love League, I do get kind of stressed out playing solo queue because of like how toxic it's gotten over the years. But I feel that you still have that nice camaraderie, like teamwork with WoW M+. So I play over on twitch.tv/MeteosDruid. I do some WoW gameplay over there. I'll also be at MSI Finals with Secret Lab. So if you're going to show up, come say hi. We'll have a very special guest next week on the podcast. I will now do the outro. Thank you for watching this episode and for all your questions. If you have any more questions, please leave them down below. I'll be streaming all of MSI. Come tune in. It'll be a lot of fun.